Welcome back to Why Blank Lost. I'm David Bloomberg, and I was hoping to not be talking about Adrian this week. With me is my special guest, who, from what I've seen on Blue Sky, definitely shares this opinion and was also be hoping we'd be saying goodbye to Kelly. But here we are. So, welcome to the pulchritudinous Chappell.
Hey, thank you so much, David. You are 100% correct. I am sad to see Adrian go. I'm very excited to talk to you about why he lost, but there was a number of other people who could come out this week, and I would be just taking so much more pleasure in the fact that they are lost this game and they're at home watching it with the rest of us.
Yes, yes. Now, I should mention, for those of you who may have missed last week or didn't listen all the way to the end, Ovi is off this week and next because he's getting married. So,
Yes.
congratulations to him and his bride, Hannah.
Yeah. I'm so sad because I get to come here and Ovi's not here. And so it's kind of like, okay, well, tell him hello and congratulations to the both of them. I'm very excited
Yes.
for him.
Yes, unfortunately, I could not, make it to the wedding, but you know, having you here is a good, consolation.
All right, sounds good. Yeah, next time, book me when Ovi's here, then we can all have a party.
All right. Well, as I mentioned, this was definitely not the podcast either of us wanted to do today, as both of us were rooting hard for Kelly in particular to lose the blockbuster and get out of here. And even with a few very small changes, we might not be talking about Adrian at all because he wasn't going to be nominated. And then he wasn't going to be voted out until some seemingly minor things happen. Now, we'll, of course, get to those. But one thing I want to say now is we're not going to accept or use those as an excuse for Adrian's own play. Sure, those things happened when he wasn't around, but his own actions had a huge impact on the way they occurred, one way or another, as we'll find out when we follow the path we do every week and compare how Adrian played to a set of guiding rules I originally wrote way back in 2004 and have modified ever since. We'll analyze his actions using what we saw on TV, live feed, interviews, and other information. Of course, anyone who wants to check it out, you can find the most recent published version of the rules at robhasawebsite.com/bigbrotherrules. Now, we usually have some other things to discuss about the week in general, and that is, of course, the case once again this week. For a change, let's start on some good gameplay. I am talking about Ava. Now, yes, we saw her cry and cry as she voted out Adrian, but she played a pivotal role in making it happen. It was perfect Rule 4 behavior. She knew what she had to do for her game, and she did it. I mean, you have to, be thinking the same thing I am about her.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of look at her as like almost like a social player throughout, but she
Yes.
hadn't given us any strategic merit. We see her kind of like she's good with everybody. She's leaning toward Rachel, but this was really the week where Lauren was such a pushover of a head of household that she was begging people to either tell her what to do or at least get behind what she was doing. And it's because nobody was pushing it anywhere. It really only took, just the efforts of whoever wanted it more. And I think Ava going in and really pulling the wool over the guy's eyes and being like, look, y'all don't got the votes. Y'all gonna be on the wrong side of this thing. Come with us. And avoiding a tie, making this decision, getting out somebody who she wasn't working closely with. This was such a big week for Ava. And I think that it raised her profile for the fans a lot more, but I think she's still fine in the house. So I was very happy to see this.
Well, hopefully she'll raise the profile of the fans. I did a short video earlier today about the fact that we didn't see any of this on Thursday's episode. Now, hopefully they will come back and show it Sunday, but considering the way production completely screwed up what they showed in terms of how the nominations occurred, I don't have a whole lot of faith in them getting it right for this. Now, for this, it is like they can narrow it down to one conversation. They love things they can narrow down to one conversation. So that may be helpful. But yeah, you're exactly right. We saw Ava early on as just this, social person, and she got to be known for her personality in the early game. And now her strategic side is starting to come out.
Yeah, I think that's ideal. I think you want to be someone people want to be around, right? Because they're less likely to put you up if they enjoy you. And then once you're integrated, that's when you just slowly start to push in the direction that you want things to go. Someone like Vince is really good at that, of like really getting integrated with the people. He's just really bad at pushing. And so, like, so for us to kind of get to witness Ava and that strength, it was something that we hadn't seen from anybody else because everyone else was just very like timid in their
Mhm.
like in the way they were approaching the game. And Ava was timid as well, but when it was crunch time, she did what needed to be done, and I think that looked very good on her. And so if the show wants to highlight her, they definitely have the material now to do it.
Right, right. Well, speaking of timid, next we have Lauren and her terrible HOH. It began with Vince telling her nobody can call them floaters anymore because she won HOH and she's going to make those decisions. I remember that. I've made multiple videos out of that one clip. And yeah, wow, she sure showed them. Nobody's ever going to say she can't make a decision. I mean, obviously she's, very firm.
Well, David, I have so many issues with this because to me, I was trying to figure out what was happening. Why nobody was really pushing their agenda on her. There were definitely people who were kind of like doing don't let anybody else run your
Mhm.
HOA. Everybody was doing that. And it feels like normally we would see somebody say, oh, well, I need to prove that someone else isn't running my HOH. I'm going to do this. Whereas Lauren's response was definitely like, yeah, I don't mind that. I just want everybody to be okay with what I do. And
Yeah.
so it's like, yeah, it's like you can influence me however you want, but I need to make sure that I have the backing because this was really an opportunity to start a war. Like the house was basically split. And if she had targeted the Rachel's side of the house, then that would have very much had to make people choose their allegiances. And she was going to people all week and being like, tell me what to do. But you had so many. I had to use the word feckless the other day, David. But Vinny just there's no oomph there at all. It's like
Yeah.
this lady she just wants to know that she has the support of an alliance so that when she does this, she's not berated. One, she doesn't want to feel like bad. She doesn't want to make any enemies. She don't want them to be mean to her. But then also that she has numbers so that if something happens with her, she will be fine. And nobody did it. So it's like she was moving so soft, but then everybody around her was moving soft too. It was just the most frustrating week because all they had to do was suggest anybody for her and she would have gone with it.
Yeah. Yeah. And when you said, just so people understand this, maybe if you didn't watch the live feeds, I can't remember if this made it to TV. I don't think it did. When you said she was saying, tell me what to do, that is a literal quote. She was going around saying, someone tell me what to do. This isn't you using a metaphor or exaggerating. No, she wanted that. And, she just moped around begging for that for days on end. And the worst part about this for me was not even having to watch her as she endlessly drew out decisions or the way she made so many wrong ones. It was that none of it was shown on TV. They actually showed her in the light that made her sound decisive. It was like living in a different universe, living in Keanu's world.
Yeah. It's very key to understanding her game, knowing that it was so passive and that it was so bent on weighted on the strength of other people.
Mhm.
And to me, this theory I've been working on is that nobody wanted to seem like they were the one running her HOH. They don't mind running her HOH, but it can't get back to everybody else that I'm doing it. So that was
Right.
why Vinny wouldn't push. He's like, why does Rachel think that I'm in charge of your HOH? So just to combat that, I'm not going to be in charge of it. I'm not going to do the thing. I'm going to leave it
Despite
to you.
spending hours and hours, with her
Right.
alone.
But spending hours just spinning your wheels, not
Yes.
actually pushing an agenda. It's so crazy that it took all of that to end up with the result that we got. And then if you want to talk about results, how is she decisive in making one of her actual allies go home?
Yeah. Yeah. And then also afterwards, when people started, I think it was Zach and Vince said, made a comment that they wanted Ashley up there. She's like, well, why didn't you tell me that? It's like,
It's also, Lauren, if you wanted Ashley up, why didn't you put Ashley up?
right.
Why would you win HOH if you don't have an agenda? Your goal should be to eliminate somebody or make a move to where you place yourself in a better position in the game. And she came in, wanted to win HOH, and put up the same exact allies and get out the same people. It's kind of like she wanted a freebie. Like for this week, we'll just put up the same people. We'll get rid of somebody nobody likes. We'll all agree on it. And then I can go back to hiding behind people and, and like play this covert game. Mm-hmm. You can't have it both ways. And I'm really struggling with people this season, David. I feel like they think that doing nothing is enough to keep you in the game. Like I didn't do anything to go on the block. I haven't said anything wrong. You have to help people in the game. It's about what you can do for me as well. And she just took the wrong approach to this HOH.
Yeah, absolutely. And then also her HOH was terrible for Vince and that whole group because, if the Rachel, Jimmy, Morgan, Mickey side of the house start winning HOHs and knocking out the others, everybody is going to be able to look back at this as a key turning point when Lauren and Vince and Zach lost one of their own numbers who was good at comps.
Mm-hmm. And they didn't even bring the rest of their alliance with them. That's the thing that really drives me, is that those two like spineless jellyfish, they jump ship on the alliance. Ava told them to switch their votes. Meanwhile, Kat and Riley are still voting wrong.
Yeah.
I'm like, how did you manage to tank Vinny and Zach as well, Laura? You butchered your game and your number one allies game and his number one allies game all at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand them not telling Riley because, like, Riley's not here to play the game anyway. So why bother? But yeah, at one point, I know that there was discussion of them saying, well, we'll tell them in the 2 minutes after the blockbuster if we need to. But apparently they never told them. So
I guess they didn't need to.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would never trust Zach and Benny again after this. Like if you're aligned with them and they will go and vote with the house and leave you out to dry, that to me, that's essentially being like, okay, you are against me. And so now they have the task of trying to like integrate themselves to the other side of the house that knows that they were targeting them. And I just don't see anybody willingly going back to working with them. If it was me, if I'm Riley or Kat, my number one objective, above Rachel and everybody else, would be to get the turncoats, because why did you leave me out to dry like this?
Yeah. And even the phrase vote with the house, they weren't voting with the house. If they had voted the way they were supposed to, they would have been the house, because the house is the majority.
And they had it. Yeah. They had the majority. What a flop. Awful.
Yeah.
There's a bad gameplay going on this season.
Yeah.
I don't think people are talking about it enough.
Yeah. Well, moving on to another terrible player, but one who is at least amusing to watch, we have Keanu. Now, Ovi and I have discussed him for both of the past 2 weeks, so I don't want to spend too much time on him again. To sum it up this week, he's still delusional. He believes he has a perfect read on the house and is indeed the only one who sees it. He has had multiple conversations saying, I can't believe I'm the only one who understands what's going on here. And I don't have any special sixth sense. I just walk through and I see it. And it's like, if you think you're the only one, just consider for one tiny little moment, you might be wrong. And I'm not just saying that in terms of this game, but in the real world too. Because we see people like this in the real world too. All of science is wrong. I have my own physics that I have invented and only I understand. No, you don't. You're a crank. And Keanu is like the crank of this house.
Yeah, the goal is to fit in Big Brother, and it's like he almost takes pride in being the one person who's standing out. Is like no, y'all don't understand. It's me. I'm the person with all the answers. So you have voted incorrectly twice out of 2 out of 3 times. It's like this is not okay. If you haven't realized to this point that the people who you're working with, who you've been trusting, are leading you astray, that you're playing a losing game, just look at the votes. You're on the wrong side again. If that don't tell you anything, then nothing will. The man is lost in the sauce. I just don't know how you can get through to him.
You can't, because he was lecturing 2-time player, previous winner, Rachel Riley. How do you lecture her about what is going on? The gall.
He said it was like he opened her mind to the Matrix and she could see all of the pieces all of a sudden. Like he gave her the red pill or something like that. I was like, what are you talking about? Why it's and it's really bad because it's fairly obvious why he can't do this, because he only goes with people who are aligned with his same train of thought.
Mhm.
If it's what he's already thinking, then those are the people he will go with. Sadly, that's been Vinny, that's been Zach, and they do not have his best interest at heart. Rachel has been caping for this man since week one, and he just refuses to respect her opinion about anything in the game. So that's why whenever she comes to him, he's always like, no, let me tell you what it is, because there's nothing she can say. There's nothing she can say that is going to sway him, because as long as it's that other side, he's always going to go with them. They have led him astray twice already. And probably 3 times already.
Yeah.
I mean, they literally put you on the block last week. And yet here you are again. It's so bad. It's just so bad. I'm sorry.
I know. Now, continuing in the delusional realm, we have Kelly. And it's funny that we'll talk in a bit about how closely she was aligned with Adrian, because, we'll get to that in the rules. But while he promotes total honesty, she lies so much that she can't even keep her stories straight. And it's not even about stuff that matters in the game, but it matters to me. It offends me personally. In a single day, she told some people that she's watched 2 seasons of Big Brother, including last season. She told others she's seen 1 season. And this takes us back to her pregame interview, when I immediately knew she was full of crap, because she said she has watched 1 or 2 seasons. And I flagged it at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Any normal person would know if you watched 1
or
you watched 2. It's not like saying I watched 15 or 16. No,
right.
1 or 2. I'm telling you, she has not even seen 1 season. Maybe she has seen parts of 1 episode. She has seen, I believe, a Tucker highlight reel, and that is about it. Because, I mean, you can't claim to have watched last season and then go out and say, oh, I thought that Blockbuster, which is the same as AI Arena, had 2 winners. No, if you watched last season, you know how many winners it has. And if you paid that close attention to Tucker, you know how many winners it has. She just cannot keep her story straight, and she's lying through her teeth.
Well, if she paid close attention to Tucker, as close as she wants us to believe, then she would know that this also is a losing strategy. Tucker lost the game, Kelly. What's not clicking? Yeah. Tucker lost. Stop doing what Tucker did, because the same outcome is coming for you. It's infuriating. I remember, I think it was a preseason press, and I have to go look. I think it was one of those Mike Bloom articles or a Parade article or whatever. She said she thinks she'll lie about her occupation in the house. Lady, you're a graphic designer. Who cares? That's why I was like, this lady doesn't know what she's talking about. Like, why would you? What?
Are you the one who found that she can't spell designer?
Why is design spelled incorrectly on your website, Kelly, if you're a graphic designer? What the hell? So I was like, wait, anybody who thinks lying about being graphic designer is going to help them in Big Brother has never seen Big Brother.
Yeah. Well, and she hasn't. I mean, clearly.
And she's not.
Yeah. She admitted in a camera chat she doesn't really know how to play the game, doesn't know if she's doing well or not. So allow me to answer. No. She told Rachel that she doesn't know what a good game is, which is clearly true. And throughout even just the veto episode, we saw her 3 times, 3 different diary rooms, talking about volunteering for the block and claiming all sorts of different things. She claimed she did it to make Lauren's week a little easier. She claimed that it was to gain some sort of imaginary points in the house. There are no points in the house. She did it to build a resume so that people would owe her. Kelly, nobody owes you anything, and nobody is going to pay you back for these alleged good deeds that you have done.
What was her motivation for coming on the show? They didn't recruit this woman. I refuse to believe they recruited Kelly. Like, we need a Kelly. They did not do that.
I think they did. I think they recruited her. I think they saw she was like a wacky personality type. Maybe she applied. I don't remember if she applied, but
it's frustrating, David, because we like to watch entertaining gameplay, but it also is it's almost like disrespectful to the craft. It's like we spend so much time in like loving this show, watching this show through flaws and all. And this show is very flawed and has been for decades. And yet we are still here pushing through because we enjoy talking about it. We support the brand, Big Brother. And this woman comes in and she's doing everything that's the antithesis of what it is to be a Big Brother player and just laughing and joking about it while people like Adrian, who are building wall comps in their backyard, are going home third. It's not fair to people who care about the game. I don't mind the recruits getting on these shows. I don't care. But if you're at least going to get on a show, try to win the game. And it just frustrates me to no end that she's not trying.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. You know, it's a game for $750,000. Do a little bit of research. Do the most basic research. You were in sequester. I'm sure they gave you seasons to watch, and you just decided, nah. You know, you're trying to win $750,000. Come on, try a little bit. It makes no sense whatsoever.
Yeah, and people like her and Tucker too. I think people are way harder on Kelly than they were on Tucker, and I just like they're doing the same exact thing. I don't care what nobody says. But people like them frustrate me because it's just like if you don't want to play the game, don't go on the game. You know, if you want to be the star of your own show and be an influencer, there are tons of ways to do that. Don't waste our time, and I feel like she's wasting our time. She should have been gone.
Yeah, I was fairly hard on Tucker and got heat for it. You know,
I was hard on Tucker. If he got one hater, David, it's me. No, if he got one hater on this earth, it's me. A Tucker hater in that house. Now, outside the house, I'm sure he's lovely. But inside the house, he was doing the same thing Kelly is doing.
Yeah. All right. Well, now that we have that out of our system, do you have anything or anyone else you want to discuss before we move on to our next semi-regular segment?
There's so many people who just need to be whacked. I just think like Vinny. Come on, Vinny. I understand. I see what he's doing, but it's just like this is just ineffective. I know that you have been hard on our last two boots, Amy and Zach. I'm sorry, Zay. And that's okay. Because I think we have to be hard on Adrian too. So I'm very excited to get into that.
Yeah. It's interesting because just looking ahead, I do believe we will be pretty hard on him, but we'll see. I was angry at Zay. I was angry at Amy. I'm less angry at Adrian, but it's more disappointed. You know, it's when your parents say to you, I'm not mad, I'm just disappointed. You know, that's how I feel about Adrian here.
I'm annoyed.
Yes, annoyed is another good one.
I'm annoyed. Yes. Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah. But before we get to that, we do have our segment. Julie Chen Moonves is wrong about blank. And this week we have 3 portions for it. Now, the first is thanks to Sarah Cupcakes, who pointed this out to me on Blue Sky. It was something ridiculous that Julie said at the very beginning of the eviction episode. She said, tonight, a pawn must go home. And then after the recap, she did it again, saying there were, quote, just pawns left on the block after Keanu won the power of veto. As Sarah noted, there literally cannot be all pawns on the block. Someone has to be the HOH's preferred target. They're not all pawns.
David, the problem is, I honestly think Julie had a point because who was Lauren's target?
Well, okay, there's that. I mean,
I would just someone tell me.
Will.
Lauren,
Will.
It eventually got to Will, but there was at least 3 days where this woman was walking around, give me a target, anybody. And I don't think anybody was able to do it. But yeah, by the time Julie is talking, Will is definitely the person that they're coming after. He had somehow shifted from pawn to like the most important player in the game. And that's who I have.
Pawns can turn into targets? No way.
That's who I have it with. Will. Will. Let me talk to Will real quick because I'm rooting for Will. Will cannot get on television and tell us, oh, this was a weak move, all this other stuff. There are all these big targets. Will, you have to do something in the game.
Yes.
You cannot just exist and hope to not get voted out. You have to be an asset to people. When people are about to put you up, go to them and tell them, don't put me up because I'm an asset to you and here's why. But no, Will goes to Lauren and says, I heard it. I know it's me. On the show, David, he's like, I knew it since last night. What did you do in the 12 hours that you knew that you were going to go up as a pawn
This is what he did. This is what he did.
Right. Pouting. That doesn't get you anywhere. It doesn't. And so then, on top of all that, in his eviction speech, he's so torn up about the idea that he could be going, but also this great kid, Adrian, who doesn't swear, who's just the nicest kid on earth. Will, that is your competitor. Why are you talking about how great Adrian is? I'd be like, Adrian sucks. He's not good for your game. Vote him out. You campaigning for Adrian. Vinny, Zach, they don't have a backbone. They would have flipped just because of that. They would have been like, you know what? Honestly, you're right. I can't vote out Adrian. I don't want to hurt that kid. And you would have messed up your whole thing based on your bad campaigning. Will is at the top of my list of people who are just frustrating me. Like Keanu you can't help Keanu. He's just gonna be Keanu. There's nothing you can do. But I just want to shake Will and be like, do something, please.
Well, and it's also frustrating because he was like the anti-Kenny in his pregame interview. He was like, I can't stand those people who come in there and they say they want to leave and and meanwhile he's talking about, well, you might as well just send me home and stuff. Will, you're making us older guys look bad. There are literally people out there posting and saying, stop casting anyone over this age. And it's like, no, don't blame us because of Will and Kenny. Blame casting. There are interesting older people out there.
Yeah, and give more people around their demographic to talk to and mingle with. Like Will's making that point, and I agree. Like, you shouldn't be in there on an island by yourself. But Will was being brought. It'd be different if it was Will was ostracized.
Mm-hmm.
Will was getting targeted by his own alliance. You're like, Will, you have to show some type of initiative to make people want to keep you around. It wasn't that you couldn't integrate with the group. Ava had taken in Will. Mickey and Morgan were good with Will. The entire side that was about to vote him out was good with Will. He allowed himself to get put in that situation because he actually took no action. Inaction does not win Big Brother. I don't know who told these people all you had to do was sit around and chill and not get voted out, because that's just not the case.
Yeah. And interestingly, I was going to save this till later to mention, but our sub for Ovi next week will be Cliff Hogg. So maybe he will have some thoughts about, the way the older guys have been acting lately.
And he was ostracized. That's the thing. Cliff is the opposite of Will. Cliff was not being taken in. Cliff was making moves to get in good with people. Will is just hanging out and being social, and it's just not enough.
Yeah. All right. Well, getting back to our Julie segment, when I have to go to the well here, because I almost always can get something out of Julie's interview with Dalton, because Dalton will ask a question and she almost always gives a bad answer. And so this happened again this week. She said, no one but Kelly is taking risks and playing hard. Now, considering what we just talked about with Kelly, I'm going to come down hard on this one. Julie once again showed she has no idea whatsoever how this game should be played. I mean, she's basically saying playing Russian roulette with your game should be admired.
Mm-hmm. She said taking risks and playing hard. Kelly is definitely taking risks. They're not calculated risks. They're just risks. Yeah. But she's not playing hard. There's nothing about what Kelly is doing is playing hard. She's not improving her position. She's literally just putting one foot out the door every week and kind of just playing, like you said, Russian roulette or chicken with the swinging door. It's like, okay, this time you almost got me. You almost got me. She's running out in the street and coming back around like a squirrel. Kelly, get out of the house. I'm done. There's no reason. And Julie, you should not be supporting this type of energy, because if next year we get a Tucker and Kelly, like the triplet to them, like who's like, I want to be like Kelly. No, that's bad for TV. It is bad for the game.
Yeah. And then I have one late breaking portion here. On social media, Julie posted a video ad for watching the live feeds on Pluto. I don't know if you saw this. I think it was on Instagram. I saw reposts of it, I think thanks to Hamster Watch on Blue Sky. And she's watching a video on a laptop, supposedly, watching the live feeds on Pluto. But in the video, you can clearly see that what she's claiming to be watching is the adoptable animals, which come up when the feeds are down. I mean, it's already bad enough that we have to hear her lie and say we get unfiltered feeds 24/7 And this season, they've been more filtered and worse than ever. But this ad just shows how bad it is that she's claiming to be watching the feeds, and it's on the blocked portion.
Imagine if somebody tried to get you to watch Big Brother and they said, "Oh my God, I love this show. Let me show you what we do. We watch them 24/7," and they just pull up pictures of dogs. Yeah. You're like, okay, so when do I watch them? It's like, well, they've been down for about 8 hours, but I promise we watch them all the times. The feeds were down for 9 hours last night.
Yeah.
9. What? That's a whole work day of feeds that just gone. It's just, so we don't know what the hell happened. So when people come in and they have different issues with each other, or we miss all the gameplay, and that's what makes Big Brother Big Brother. If we wanted to watch an edited show, we would watch Survivor, which we do. But in the summertime, we're supposed to be able to watch a game that we almost have a 360 view of, and we don't, because they constantly take down the feeds, and then Julie has the nerve to get on the TV and lie to us.
Yeah. All right. Well, before we move on now to the rules, I do want to mention that although we don't have a poster for the Big Brother rules, we do have one for the Survivor version. And you can go to robhasawebsite.com/YXLostFeed, scroll down to the poster, click on it, and order it. Or if you want the poster on a t-shirt, you can keep scrolling and get that. Same with the checklist on a t-shirt, which is the closest to the Big Brother version of the rules. Not quite. Now, you might notice that I am wearing a shirt as well that, we will talk about this later. It says honesty, loyalty, integrity on it, which, it's just for Adrian. This is also a shirt that you can get by going and clicking through. You can go to the RHAP store, because what's on the back is the truth. Scheme and plot. Because you should be scheming and plotting behind people's back while you put forth this idea, which Adrian didn't do, as we will discuss. I remember you telling me at one of the RHAP events, you knew that you saw me across the room and you knew it was me because it said scheme and plot on the back of my shirt. So
yeah, I mean, scheme and plot is like a part of the lexicon for Survivor, and hopefully it gets into the Big Brother people's heads too, because it really is one of those things that's like, you're not going on this show to win a morality competition. You're not going on this show to be the most honest. You're not going on the show to win the most challenges. That's not what these shows are for. These shows are about outmaneuvering people. You can do those things and still win the game, I'm sure. But the goal is to come in with a plan. When you say plot, you mean create an idea for how you're going to make it to the end. Create a scheme. Like, think schematic. There needs to be some type of plan for what you're going to do. And you can change the plan, but you have to have something. And the last two people who've gone out of this game have gone out being like, I wanted to play an honest game. It's somebody else's fault that I'm out, and I wouldn't change anything for the world. And for that, I just have nothing. I got nothing to say.
Yeah. Well, let's get on to that. It's strange that we're here to talk about Adrian, because he told us in his pregame interview that, quote, "In my head, I am the greatest Big Brother player the world has yet to see. I'm ready to prove it." And when Julie asked Adrian why she thought the others voted him out instead of Will, Adrian said, "Because they're a bunch of chickens. They're liars, and they're too afraid to make big moves. They're too scared. Everyone wants to play it safe." And indeed, as you mentioned, he blamed a lot of his exit on other people not being willing to play. He did acknowledge some issues, just not enough. But hey, that's why we're here, to point out all of them. We're just helpful that way, because at RHAP, we know Big Brother and we know why Adrian lost. Now, the first and most important, that's a special announcement to Adrian, most important rule here is to scheme and plot, which we just started talking about. You would think that Adrian, being the super fan that he is, would understand that. You would, however, be wrong. Or rather, he would be wrong. Because when he was asked in his pregame interview about how he prepared, he talked about sleeping on the floor and training for comps and eating slop and reading psychology books. What he didn't talk about in retrospect was his strategic preparation. More specifically, the ability to tell a simple lie. And while that sounds silly, we've actually had at least Survivor players. I don't remember if we've seen any Big Brother players say this, but at least some Survivor players say in pregame interviews that they practiced lying to people before going to play. Adrian needed to do the same thing. or at the very least get himself into a headspace where he would allow himself to lie, because that is part of the game. And I hate to quote Lauren, because of course at some point, you know, probably we don't know when we'll talk about Lauren, but at some point we will, and we'll talk about her issues in this rule. But she was right when she said, you have to play the game. It's not truth, brother.
I have so many issues with this, because I think that you can be honest, but Adrian is walking around and wearing his honesty as if it is like this big ass sword that he has to wield, right? Like it's on a t-shirt. He's telling people, if you're a liar, I'm against you. I would never lie. Like, don't lie. Fine. If you don't want to lie, don't lie. But don't walk around telling people that you are not going to lie, or just prove yourself to be honest in your actions. And then if you have to cook up a lie later on, people won't be on to that. But you have now made yourself like this figure of morality, right? Even if Adrian gets to the end, if he's one of those people who, I never lied in the game ever, you're gonna lose anyway. So there's no point in doing that. He was trying to present honesty to people so that they would give it back to him. And it was working. There were definitely people who were going to Adrian with information because they felt like he would never tell me that, he would never snitch, he would never say these things. That's not the type of player that he is. But that is all he did. He didn't scheme and plot. There was nothing, there was no method to his back. It was just, let me just be really outwardly honest, and then take in information, and then declare war against people who have been caught in lies. If you are telling the liars that you're going to come for them, why wouldn't they vote you out?
Yeah. I mean, I look back at his pregame interview to see, was there a hint indicating he would play this way? And there was a hint, because he had said, my weaknesses would probably be two things: being honest, even if it's brutal, like farting or just caring about people too much. I don't know what farting has to do with being honest, but okay. And then he continued, I feel like my weaknesses are my strengths in a way, because you can't go wrong with honesty, right? Now, when I originally read that, I thought he was talking about the types of honesty he mentioned, not literally going all George Washington in the game with this, I cannot tell a lie. Mm-hmm. And it turns out the reason he didn't talk about it in his interview is because the whole super honest thing didn't solidify in his mind until he got into the game. He told Mike Bloom that being honest is just something he is in real life, and he didn't want to play the game of lying like everyone else. Big Brother isn't real life.
Yeah.
It's a game. You're not only allowed to act differently, you need to act differently. Like, dude, have you ever played poker? Do you refuse to bluff? Oh, that would be lying. If you're betting big, I can't bet bigger because I don't really have good cards. Does he play Battleship and uncover his board so he's not hiding his ships? Does he play Risk and tell his opponents where he's planning to attack next? Games are different from real life.
Mm-hmm. No, totally agree. It frustrates me to no end. I've just said I was frustrated so much, but I am just resting annoyed right now at some of these players, because Adrian comes out of the house. I was rooting for Adrian when he went into the season. A lot of people were like upset because they didn't like his preseason press. I was like, listen, I'll take a fan over a Kelly any day.
I was the same way.
Right. And so I'm like down for Adrian, but then he gets out the house and he's basically saying, yeah, like my honesty, that was a good thing. That was a good idea. That was the part that working. What really didn't work for me is I didn't win the first HOH. That's what I would do differently. And I was thinking, okay, you're still missing a big portion of it. Because had you won the first HOH, were you just going to be honest with everybody? Because you'd still be in the same spot.
Well, I mean, I will have thoughts about that, but at least if he had won the first HOH as he planned and created a majority alliance, he wouldn't have to lie because he'd have his majority alliance.
Yeah. Until the next
until later. But yeah. Right. But he, I think you may have mentioned this earlier, that he also told Mike Bloom he believed his honesty would help him out in the long run. And he emphasized that he still stood by that. So like you said, even coming out, he's still staying by that. See, the problem, Adrian, let me give you tell you a little secret here. You didn't have a long run.
Yeah.
And it's in large part because of this. You mentioned earlier also that it affected his interactions with people. Like, he didn't talk to Rachel very much during his time in the game. But at one point this week on the live feeds, they had a conversation in which she asked him what type of game he was playing. And he gave his usual, I'm playing a more honest game, I won't lie spiel. And she correctly pointed out that you can't give everyone your word. He replied, then just don't give them your word. But that's the thing. If you're telling everyone you're playing honesty and you're not making promises, then people will know you're going to go against them. Like someone will say to you, well, you promised me you won't vote against me. He'll say, well, I'm playing an honest game, so I can't promise you that. Okay, you just told them you're voting against them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I feel like honesty, like there's a number of things that he did wrong, but that first HOH, he knew Zay was going home. He knew Zay was going home, but he had so much integrity that he couldn't flip his vote. That is why you were gone. You voted incorrectly, and then the next week you became a perpetual pawn because you voted incorrectly. You voted incorrectly. That is why you're in trouble. You did not flip when you should have flipped. Yep. And so people had a reason to put you up. And now you're going to go up every time. So when there's a question of whether or not they're going to put up Will or Adrian, it's like basically a coin toss because y'all have both been on the block. Once you're on the block one time, we don't have to keep saying this. Once you're on the block one time, you're more likely to go up again because people like Lauren don't want to get blood on their hands. And an easy way of not getting blood on your hands is putting Adrian up. Your honesty was a flaw in the game, and I just need him to say it.
Yeah, well, he's not going to unless he learns when he comes out. But I mean, and that's what he needs to understand because like when most players are nominees and they need to argue their way out of it, they can make promises. They can swear they'll do anything and everything. But when Adrian found himself in trouble, he wouldn't do that. He said generic things like, I'll be good for all of your games and my honesty will help you because I will go after the liars. And there's so many problems here. First, you can't be good for everyone's games. You can't. It's a zero-sum game. If you're good for one person's game, you're bad for another. Mm-hmm. Second, if you're going to go after liars and everyone else knows they lie at one point or another, well, then you've told them you're going after them.
Mm-hmm. It don't get any simpler than that. You've declared your target and I'm the liar, so you got to go. If you're not working with me, you're working with them, so you got to go.
Yeah. Now, in addition to all of the honesty issues, he had other problems in this rule. Like he couldn't really get going in the game. When Jimmy asked him the previous week if he would be willing to go on the block as a pawn, Adrian kind of pulled a Will. He didn't push back. And, we saw him. It was literally the same thing as Will. He didn't push back in person and then got riled up in the diary room. So, you can't do that. And the first time he was on the block, he didn't really seem to know how to go about trying to get people on his side. At one point, Mickey even coached him to talk game with people. Adrian's response was, well, but I might say the wrong thing. Well, sure, you might say the wrong thing, but you need to say something. Mm-hmm. And Mickey told him he needs to build allies and find people to trust, which is good advice. Except his allies were people like Kelly and Keanu and Vince, who we'll talk about more in Rule 7. But getting back to his own gameplay, I will say he did eventually kick things into gear finally last week, Wednesday, by going around telling people he would win comps and protect them and target Keanu. And he tried the same thing this week, but it wasn't going to work this week. He didn't have the benefit of going against Amy this week.
No, it's you're playing a bad Big Brother game when you get voted out and nobody wants you to go. Like nobody, that was the thing. He was nobody's number one target. Nobody. Everybody was like fine with Adrian, and even he was because all he was doing was telling the truth. They knew he was no real threat to them immediately. But the fact that he was aligned with that other side of the house, and that they could take control of it by just getting rid of this one piece that could win challenges, it was a no-brainer to take him out. It's like they're upset because they're voting him out, but it's your fault, Adrian, that they're voting you out. Yeah. If you were an asset to either side more, then they would have gone to bat for you. And instead, Lauren walked around asking for people to give her something, and they just let it be you. And someone should have been fighting tooth and nail to keep you off the block if you weren't going to do it.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. Sometimes you just get outplayed.
Yeah.
And that was definitely the case here. We already talked about the move Ava made to flip Zach and Vince. Plus, Ashley and her allies pushed hard on Lauren before that to get Lauren to flip and make Adrian the nominee. And, part of him being outplayed is that he simply had and continues to have a completely wrong view of certain players. For example, in his interviews afterwards, he called Ava a floater and said she doesn't socialize. This was after he had been told by interviewers how much she turned things against him. And how can you say Ava doesn't socialize of all the people?
Yeah, she's pretty pure, like a pretty pure social player. Yeah, that's her thing. It's tough for me because it's like when we get them out of the house and we kind of ask them questions as a press or whatever, and we're like leading them to see the truth. Everybody's like, don't you see that this is a thing that you should have changed? And he's like, no. And I think for Adrian, he's so rigid, and we'll talk about flexibility, of course, but for him, he can't see outside of the world that he came into the house with. And I'm not in the same way of Keanu, right? Keanu has a set, like he's scheming and plotting and things have to go his way. But Adrian studied the game. He did all of that prep. And so it was like, if things didn't go exactly how they were going to go in his head, before even coming in the game and meeting these people, then there was nothing he was going to be able to do. And I think he focused so much on beating the challenges and breaking the game in those ways that he actually came in and wasn't paying attention to his surroundings, because calling Ava a floater when you were actively on the side that should have been targeting Ava's side. Like, David, the house was in two sides. If it's in two sides, then you should see who the floater is. It's not, if you know that Ava is not working with you, then she's against you.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, we can move on to the second rule, which says not to scheme and plot too much and to keep your scheming secret. Now, even though Adrian clearly did not scheme and plot enough, he also managed to have some problems in this rule. The most obvious of which was his tight duo with Kelly. Why he would choose her to be in a duo with is beyond me. But even putting that aside for the moment, everyone knew it. One reason Jimmy gave for nominating him last week was so he wouldn't be a vote in Kelly's favor or, take her down. I don't think it came into play as much this week, but it was still a situation that everyone knew.
Yeah, I will say he's probably better than most people of keeping his scheming to themselves. But, having strong allies that you will work with no matter what, people should not know about that. It was the same frustration you had with Amy, where she's saying Rachel was the problem. People knew I was aligned with Rachel. Ashley was the problem. People knew I was aligned with Ashley. You went and found those allies and you aligned with them publicly. Vinny is upset because people think that he's running Lauren's HOH. You've been in her room for 6 hours. What do you think we're going to do? What do you think we're going to perceive from that? And so there were definitely times where, what's this man's name? Adrian showed that by being aligned with Kelly of all people, it did put you on that side of the house. They knew Kelly was aligned with Vinny. So you're with Vinny if you're with Kelly, and those types of things. So yeah, he could have kept that a lot closer to the vest.
Yeah. And I mean, I do think, now you said he mostly kept his scheming secret. I do think because he didn't have a full understanding of where everyone in the house stood, he made the mistake of saying too much sometimes. He tried to get Lauren to nominate Vince.
Crazy.
By saying Vince was good with everyone. It's like, yeah, he is good with everyone, especially Lauren, which was obvious to everyone else but Adrian, apparently.
And again, Vince is one of your allies. Like, he is one of your allies. He's working with Kelly. You're working with Kelly. So why would you want Vince to go up when there are all these other people, all these other options that you're not working with? What is, you want to talk about being chicken and cowardly? It's a little cowardly to target Vince this week when there were so many options. The people who put you on the block are still here. You just why not? But yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. And then finally for this rule, Adrian, he over-schemed himself. And this is something you already brought up. He said in his interviews that he came into the game planning to gun for the first HOH, but then decided to throw it and play low-key instead.
David, isn't that chicken in and of itself? Like, you had an idea. You came in like, I know what to do. and then you backed out.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's a very good point. You could have come in and been like, I'm in charge. I'm doing this. I'm in that. Nope. I'm gonna hide over
I'm
here.
gonna hide. I'm gonna hide.
Be
Yeah.
over here. And yeah. And he made his own rules for the game before going in. He told Mike Bloom that he knew you have to create or join the winning alliance early, and the best way to do it is from a position of power. He gave himself specific advice on how to play the game, and then he ignored himself. I mean, it's one thing. I know some people, not the smart people, but some people ignore the advice that I give, that you give, that others give. But you're ignoring your own advice? Really?
And even that part with the position of power, you didn't win the first HOH. So the second part of your first rule, Adrian, per the Adrian rules, is to go and join the majority alliance. When faced with the opportunity to join the majority alliance, you still voted to keep Zay. You could have flipped. You weren't blindsided. You knew. It was like door A, majority alliance, door B.
He gave his word. You can't break your word.
Why is this rule number one? Rule number one should be never break your word. If that's what you're going to do, if that's going to supersede everything else, then why is your rule number one to go and join a majority alliance when you had the opportunity to at least present that you were with the majority and you actively went against your own rule to not do that? And you're talking about your honesty is the reason why you're here. Sir, there are a ton of reasons why you're here.
Yeah. Yes. So let's move on to another one with Rule 3, which talks about the need to be flexible. Now, we know he could be physically flexible enough to hang on to his homemade wall. Mm-hmm. But you've already mentioned, I think you probably have some opinions on how he did in this rule.
I just want him to be able to play the game with other people. It's like no matter what, you just saying the same exact lines over and over again. It's like, I'm honest. You're chicken. I'm doing this for my family. There was no nuance to Adrian's game. No. He goes out basically saying that he was a comp threat. A comp beast. But he was a comp threat. That's it. You were a comp threat. You came in second place to Casey Clark. Congratulations. That is all you have to hang your hat on because you weren't flexible. The flexibility starts, again, with the first vote. You had the opportunity to bend and to leave these people. You could have left Keanu and Kelly high and dry. You could have left them high and dry. Now, here it is week 3, and you're sitting here doing extra press saying, yep, I was just too close to Keanu and Kelly. It's almost like you should have jumped ship when you knew Zay was going home. What is the strategy? His whole thing was like, well, now people knew I was honest. No, now people know you're not flexible. So they can't work with you. When things change, you will not change. This is probably his biggest, this biggest flaw in the game.
Yeah, it comes down to, we already discussed a lot of it with his refusal to lie. Right there, that is inflexibility. You are not going to change your internal moral code for a game. That is inflexibility. He put this artificial limitation on himself. He painted himself into a corner. And, Taryn noted on the roundtable was that even before he voted to keep Zay, he locked in that promise to Zay early in that first week, and he wasn't really interested in further discussing things because he had made a promise. What is there to discuss? So he didn't talk to people. People didn't talk to them. And so you lose all that opportunity for both socializing and strategizing. Then, like you said, he voted with the minority because of that promise.
Yeah, on purpose.
On purpose. And further locks you in. And he was stuck with those allies. He never seemed to make much of an effort to expand that group, even when he sometimes admitted that he got along better with some of the others. Like, just look at Mickey. I already talked about her giving him advice, but in the end, she wasn't on his side because he never did anything to try and be on the same side as her.
No, when Lauren says she's going to put you up on the block, that should make a little sound in your head go off, a little alarm go off that said, this person doesn't care about me in the game.
Mm-hmm.
I am expendable, because there is a world where I go home. I could be one of three people. This isn't like the final 7 or something like that, where there's not a lot of options and you know that you good, you got the numbers. You were just on the wrong side of the vote 2 weeks ago. So you know that you don't have a strong alliance all the time to make these things happen. So this woman is telling you that, and you're like, I'm still willing to work with them. Those people are showing you that they're expendable. So why don't you just try to go do something else? Go try to work with the other side. Maybe they could have all come up with a different plan. Maybe that side could have pressured Lauren and put Vinny up. You don't know, because you never tried. You didn't go. You just tried it from your side. Your goal is to work with all these people, because you can't just decide automatically, I'm just not going to work with these people at all. I'm not going to lie to them either. And they're just going to let me stick around because I might win a competition and save them.
Or save someone. We don't really know who, because he promised that he would save everyone, and he was good for everyone's game. So
yeah, except the liars.
Yes. All right. Well, we could go to the fourth rule, which says players should not let their emotions control them. And I know you said, flexibility was the core of his problems, but I think the heart of it, kind of an ironic term, I now realize, was here in this rule. Because why wouldn't he lie? There wasn't a good strategy reason behind it. It was an emotional decision about how he wanted to play. Why was he so tightly aligned with Kelly? We know there wasn't strategy behind that, because she doesn't have any. It was because he got along with her so well. And then on the flip side, Keanu was one of his biggest supporters, as even Julie pointed out to him. Yet he went around saying he was going to target Keanu for being a liar. And he also had it in for Rachel and Jimmy, and he was not exactly hiding that. Why? Again, mostly emotional reasons. But in Big Brother, you need to separate your game from those emotions. You can hate Keanu and Jimmy for lying all you want, but you still need to try to work with them. You can worry about Rachel being a threat. That doesn't mean you make it obvious that you don't even want to talk to her.
At least use your emotions as a weapon. Like if you're gonna be emotional, if you're gonna and he thought he was using this honesty as a way of getting people to give him information. And to an extent, it was working. People was giving him information, but that's all he was doing. He wasn't able to move. It's just, he just didn't have any nuance to his game at all. So it's really hard to watch him kind of try to justify it. I know he's going to watch the tape back. Hopefully he will go in and look at the live feeds, like literally go and look at these transcripts for what's been going on, because then he will see that it's not some, the one side was so scared to draw blood with the other side, so they just put you up to be safe. No, that's not what this was. It was a lot of inactivity, a lot of people talking about saving you and then saying, well, no, he said he's going after the liars and that he'll never turn his back on these people. If these people want Keanu out and they think that you'll never leave Keanu's side, then won't they want you out by proxy? It's like, how did you not get there?
Yeah. All right. Well, the fifth rule says players need to pretend to be nice and play the social game. And in a way, this is, using emotions too. So how do you think he did here?
He pretended to be nice at first, and he was nice. People liked him. People enjoyed his presence. But when it comes to the social game part, I think that's the part that's missing, the game. I think that he could be social, but he can't fake it. Like he even said that coming in. Like, I'm very blunt or whatever. I'm very straightforward, sometimes too honest to a fault, whatever. So in the conversations he would have with Rachel could visibly see that he was not picking up what she was putting down. She could see it. And he would even say it too to other people. Like, I talked to Rachel. I think he told her one time that it was like talking about like an interview. He ends up going and telling Julie, oh, well, I didn't want to put my family's business out and on the internet and all this kind of stuff. Number one, if you sign up to go on Big Brother, you are asking for a lot of people to be in your business. That's the first thing I have to say about that. Number two, there are other ways. Riley. Right, but there are other ways to. Yes, dear God, there are other ways of connecting with people instead of just talking about your family. If you are actually going out of your way to do it, and I think for a lot of those people, he just didn't especially for Rachel, because we have so much content of the two of them talking and it just going nowhere. It's just for him, he wasn't able to fake it in a way that was believable and that helped his game move forward.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, to continue from some of what I was saying in the last rule, he basically ignored the people he didn't like. And, you know, as he acknowledged when Taryn interviewed him, his extreme honesty hindered his ability to make connections to the other side because he said he didn't want to make early promises that he knew he'd have to break. So he just like avoided them. But you mentioned it. The title of the rule mentions it. Pretend to be nice.
Pretend.
But then again, he would probably say pretending is like lying. So you can't have that.
I think so. I think that's literally what he would say, because in a way, it's like he's presenting something that's not. He does not want to work with you. You're a liar. And he was walking around telling everybody that. It was his mantra in the house. It was his mantra when he got eliminated. First thing he says to Julie, that they're all chickens and liars.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, because they signed up to play Big Brother, a game for liars. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, Big Brother, a game for liars.
Yeah.
Find me the honest Big Brother player who never told a lie that won the game.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this is the same argument I've been having about Survivor because of last season with, Joe and David and these guys going in there. And I firmly stand behind it that no, a person playing that way cannot win. And people will argue, well, it's theoretically possible if this and this and this and this. And I'm like, okay, you run it a million times in a million different universes and someone's going to win. But under normal circumstances, it is not going to happen. And, Adrian studied. We talked about this. He studied for this game.
Mm-hmm.
In his pregame interview, he said, I've studied almost every social psychology book you could think of. I know what it takes to get someone to like you. So it's not about how much you have in common with someone, as how much you can make them think you have in common with them, right? Which sounds like pretending to be nice, but what do I know? He says, and the way I like to define strategic, the social is who you have influence over, and the strategic is how you use that influence, which goes back to what you were saying about the game part of it.
Mm-hmm.
And he's continued. So the first stage, the early game, the social game is the most important part. You have to build up these relationships because you can't be strategical in the first session, because you can't use that influence if you haven't built that influence. All of that is great in theory.
Yeah.
In practice, he did pretty much none of it. Despite saying that the social portion is the most important early, he picked his friends early. He made little or no attempt to get others to like him, and he certainly didn't gain influence over most of them. Just like with his plan to win the first HOH and create a majority alliance, he got into the game, and he didn't put his own actions or his own ideas into action.
I prefer a player who tried and failed than someone who came in and just did not try. And I feel like for him, his all of that studying, he got in and he threw it out the window. And he's like, no, I'm just going to vibe it out. I'm going to figure this out now. I'm going to go against all the things that I learned, because what he was really focused on, David, was the challenges. He thought eventually he was going to start winning stuff, and then people were going to have to bow down and allow him to do whatever. Because when you're winning the game, you can definitely be honest.
Right.
Because like when you're winning the challenges and they can't touch you, oh yeah, that's perfect timing. He was waiting on the wall because he thought he was going to win the wall. He was waiting on OTEV because he thought he was going to win OTEV. He was waiting on, he's waiting on all these Big Brother staples because he's practiced them. And he knows that once I get there, I'm going to win them. And then I can do what I want because they can't touch me. You got to get there first. And the get there part, he was just not active enough for me at all. And so all of this was for naught. All of this studying and this prep work is for naught if you're not going to put it into action when you get in the house.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting to me that last week he said in a camera talk on live feeds that he thought his social game was good. And meanwhile, we saw all the problems we just discussed. I mean, Morgan and Lauren talked about him not having as many social connections and Lauren having fewer repercussions if she nominated him. And I mean, then again, Lauren said she wasn't playing scared, and Keanu said he knew what was happening in the whole house. So clearly there are delusions running amok in that house.
Yeah, they just be talking. But, it's a difference to be liked by everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And then to be using that, like he said, using that social part to influence the game. And he wasn't influencing the game. And so they were fine getting rid of you. There's no reason why you should have gone home on Lauren's HOH. It just shouldn't have happened.
Right. All right, I have one more thing, and I just want to give credit to Taryn for pointing this out, that Adrian comes off because of this honesty that he keeps proclaiming. which you talked about. It was like he was wearing a shirt around. He comes off as if he believes he has the moral high ground.
Mhm.
And I don't think he was quite like Joe and David of Survivor. You know, as they walked around, they didn't just say, I am being honest. They said, everyone should play with honesty. I mean, but then again, Adrian did say, I'm going after the liars. So in a way, he was saying that. And no one wants to deal with someone like that.
No, especially not on the jury. So the one thing that's been annoying me about this cast is that they've been talking about jury since day one, right? But when you're picking the jury, I don't know why. I feel like I got to stand up on a soapbox and talk about this. When people say they don't want somebody on the jury, you should be looking at people who are going to be bad players. The bad players, you should want them out of the game first. I know it's tempting to take the bad players to the end, but when they're on the jury, they are also bad jurors. You will see them make bad decisions because they don't know what's going on.
Oh, God. Can you imagine Riley and Kelly on the jury?
And Adrian being like, one of you lied, so I'm not going to vote. You know what I'm saying? We've seen that before.
Yeah.
And that's annoying because that's the game they signed up for. So, no, I wouldn't want Adrian on any jury I was on because between now and day 85, I'm probably going to have to lie, and I know he's going to hold it against me so he can go. It's just not wise to put that out into the ether. Like, of course, you want people that you can beat, but bad players make bad jurors, and you cannot tell me different.
Right. No, I agree. All right. Well, we can go to the 6th rule, which warns against being too much of a threat. And while Adrian, he did some things to reduce his threat level, but he did a lot more to increase it. On the good side, he told Mike Bloom that while everyone was talking about the details of comps, like what they involved, who had won previously, when they were played, etc., Adrian knew the answers, but stayed quiet and downplayed his knowledge. And then he also said it ended up not really helping him in the long run. So let me, remind him again. It's because you didn't have a long run.
You got to get there.
Yeah. So there was that on the good side. I don't know if you have anything to add to that.
My issue with that is that you say you're hiding your knowledge of the game from these people so that you can use it later on in the long run. But you not being knowledgeable about the game is another reason why I can't utilize you in the game. If you're going to be making bad decisions and doing bad things, then you can't work with me. Do you know how frustrating it must be to work with a Kelly? You know what I'm saying? Where it's like this person doesn't understand the fundamentals of the game. Thus, they're doing things. Keanu, we are watching Rachel Riley, who's played this game twice, like putting all this effort into somebody, and they're so awful at the game that it's getting her in trouble. It's worse for her because she's looking out for him. If she stopped telling Keanu everything that she's telling him, even if stopped talking to him altogether, it would probably be a net positive for her game. But anybody who's trying to include him in stuff, they're taking the hit. Stop it. Stop playing the game with bad players. And with Adrian presenting himself like somebody who's not very knowledgeable, when I'm building my army, I don't want you to be a part of it. You know what I'm saying? Like I want people who are going to make good decisions and not throw me to the wolves for lying. And we've been saying how close Keanu and Adrian and Kelly were, but he didn't even like Keanu. He didn't even like him. He kept saying, I want to separate myself from being a Keanu because he's a house target. And he's also your number 2 ally.
Yes.
Like, it's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, even you talk about how frustrating it must be. Even he got frustrated with Kelly, which we'll talk about in the next rule. But but then on top of all of that, and we've talked about this a little bit in leading up to this. He did the worst possible thing that you can do in a game like this. He kept coming in second.
Yeah.
He talked about it in interviews. He related it to his last-minute decision to throw the first HOH. He was ahead, and then he decided not to win it, but everyone saw how well he had done. And before that, he had done almost all the work to find Julie after the mastermind kidnapped her. But then Zach jumped in front of him. So again, people saw that he had really done everything there. Zach just kind of got lucky. You never want to be in second place a bunch of times because, and like you said, he came in second to Casey.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's essentially a win.
You know? Right. I mean, people are going to presume at some point you're going to start winning. And if you're not on their side, that's a problem. So once Lauren nominated him and a bunch of people were not on his side, who's a bigger threat here?
That's the thing, too. If you've been coming in second, you sound like an asset to me. You sound like somebody who I can use in the game. Why are your allies putting you on the block? Because you're not presenting asset to them. Nobody is presenting you as an asset. I'm coming in second. Yes, I'm a huge target, but also I'm most likely to win next week, and I got you. I'm going to win next week, and I got you. Like these people are not going to win. Let's target them. They can't come after you because we got the numbers. It's going to be all of us versus them. We're going to win this one. Just put up one of them. That's it. Ashley should have been on the block, but Adrian is too busy hiding his abilities over here and not wanting to lie and not doing this. He just stood in the way of his own game the entire time. It was like no matter what was happening, his biggest op in the entire game was him.
Yeah. Yeah. And, that continues with the other part that made him a big threat, which also we've hinted at along the way here, was, Mike Bloom pointed it out to him while interviewing him, saying that him talking about targeting the liars could have been part of the problem. But, like you said earlier, Adrian wasn't taking this in.
Yeah.
He didn't get Mike's point because he said, I wanted to drive kind of the stigma that, hey, don't lie to me or I'm coming for you. So you can be honest. If you don't want to tell me the truth, fine. Just don't tell me. If you don't want to give me your vote, that's fine. But don't say you're going to give it to me and then lie about it because I'm coming after you. So Mike asked if he thought it made him more threatening, and Adrian responded by pointing out that he threatened people.
He says, either tell me these are exact words. I heard him say it to Taylor Hill. Tell me the truth now or deal with my wrath later. First of all, your wrath, you got to get to later, as we pointed out. But second, that is essentially you saying that if you're not with me, you're against me. If you're lying, you got to go. And so when I have you on the block and I know I've lied to you and you've told me that your wrath is coming, yeah, I'm going to get rid of you right now. And now I don't have to worry about your wrath. I don't have to worry about you coming in first place. I don't have to worry about all the hours you put into the game, all the knowledge you were hiding. None of that matters because you have already planted your flag that if you've lied to me, I'm coming for you. And if I find out about it, I'm definitely coming for you. If I'm not working with you and I find out you're lying, I'm coming for you. Okay, then just go. All right, go. Bye. Peace. Yeah. It was weird when Keanu stood up and said, hey, I'm going to pick you all off one by one because although that's the name of the game, it still sounds like I am targeting you. And if you are targeting me, you can leave the house.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, the seventh rule says to trust almost nobody. And Adrian was in an interesting situation because his allies, the people he was supposed to trust, they were the worst. The worst. Unlike Amy, Adrian didn't quite blame everything on his allies. Like Amy literally was like, it's all Rachel's fault and nothing you say can dissuade me from that. But he did blame them somewhat, in some ways, mostly in his interviews. So let's talk about that a bit, starting with Kelly. As we've talked about, she was identified as a tight duo with him. And again, I have to say, like, dude, seriously, you chose Kelly as your closest ally. You're a super fan. She's the opposite. It's like oil and water, matter and antimatter. They don't mix. There was nothing good that could come out of trusting her.
Nope.
He eventually kind of realized it. They had this conversation on the live feeds where she was asking him, why don't you trust me? And why don't you tell me everything? And he was like, he was trying to avoid it, but his whole honesty thing came out, and he was like, well, you do things without thinking about the repercussions. Like you're instigating. What do you think happens after they talk to each other and realize that you are instigating? You say things about what I told you, maybe not intentionally, but you do bring them up. And so he was listing these things, and yet he was still her ally.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then the instigating thing is so stupid because it's just something Kelly made up. Tucker was the instigator, so now she's the instigator. Yeah. No one feels instigated by anything Kelly is doing, but she's walking around. We're gonna have so much fun talking about Kelly one day, but like she's walking around talking about how she's doing all this instigating, and she's telling her number one ally, or one of, I guess he's her ally, whatever. She's telling her his ally, her ally, whatever, that I'm a problem for you, and he's okay with that. So it's like when you look around and you don't have anybody to vote with you for sure, when you're losing these votes, why do you think that is? You're you're with the liars and the instigators. Like this woman's been telling you that all she's been doing is instigating arguments and walking out of them. That doesn't give you liar to you. That wasn't the red flag that you needed to say, okay, maybe I need to unhitch my wagon to Kelly. But no, I would have been so anti-Kelly. Because that's what you do. You be anti-Kelly, and then they're like, well, I'll keep him around because at least we know he's going to target Kelly. No. They were like, we'll keep Will, who's not going to do anything, but at least we know he's not targeting us.
Right. He's a number, not to, here we do not, break the seal once he goes out. But I will say this because it is not spoiling anything. In the feeds today, she was saying to someone, I don't understand why people are saying that I cause problems, or words to those effect. You've walked around telling people you're instigating. I mean, do you not know what the word means?
She says it more than anybody in the house.
Oh, yeah.
So it's her favorite word. I just don't know. Yeah. This reminds me of Amy talking about how, I just was partnered with Rachel. I was partnered with Ashley, and they put a target on my back. Yeah. You chose to partner with Ashley. You went out of your way to find the house pariah at the time, who was Ashley because of that shower thing or whatever the case may be, and you went and latched onto her. Yeah. You did that because you didn't want to make her feel bad. So that's on you. This is also on Adrian. You're not, your allies are not good. You have bad allies.
Yeah. So another great choice, Keanu. In the first episode, Keanu said, Adrian's weird. I'm weird. So, we'll work well together. But I think their weirdness was about all they had in common. Okay, I guess some delusion about their understanding of where everyone stood in the game too. But my point here is that, again, Keanu, terrible ally to have. Mm-hmm. His arguments to Lauren in favor of keeping Adrian safe was a significant contributing factor in her putting him in danger by nominating him. Mm-hmm. She literally didn't want to be associated with Keanu. So she's like, well, I'll do the opposite then. Mm-hmm. I mean, I know there were other factors, but she has mentioned this was a key point. Then Ava used Keanu as a prime example of why Vince and Zach should not stand strong for Adrian, because it would associate them with Keanu and Kelly. Mm-hmm. Even Adrian himself didn't think Keanu was a good ally and was surprised when Julie told him Keanu voted to keep him.
Yep. To me, it just doesn't make sense for, first of all, his original sin is aligning with these people, right? Mm-hmm. And that's why, back to my jury argument, I understand that you want to take people to jury that you can beat. I get that. But you also have to take people there who are not actively bad, because they are going to tank your game. They're tanking your game. They will also be bad jurors. You want your allies on the jury, but you have to pick good allies. You don't pick the worst allies and then bring them to jury, because guess what? They're going to be awful allies for you when you're when you're in the final two. They're not going to be good allies. God knows what Keanu is going to think when he places his vote. But nobody knows what Kelly's going to do. Nobody. Those people are people you need to get rid of, because the house, as timid as it is, would all get behind getting rid of people who they're not playing the game strong, who are not playing good games. Now, of course, people want to take out big threats, and there's a time and a place to do that. But when you don't have a big threat on the block, you get rid of these bad players. And it's just like, oh my God, it's just so bad. I feel bad for Adrian, because again, he had a plan, but he just got in his own way the whole time.
Yep. So next up in the list of bad allies is Vince, who is everyone's ally.
Awful ally. Worst
awful
ally
to everyone. And then he had Zach, who seems to be more concerned about showman stuff and also would pass along things he said to Morgan. He supposedly had Lauren. Oh, that worked out real well. Yeah. Those three had all agreed they didn't want him to go, despite the fact that Lauren nominated him. And they were going to stand strong, and Lauren was going to break the tie. until Ava gave them a push and they all folded like a house of cards. Now, I don't want to discredit Ava's move, but if they had truly been good allies, one or two conversations with Ava would not have been able to topple them like this. It was a perfect spineless ending to a spineless HOH.
Yeah, and that's the thing. They had every opportunity to commandeer this HOH from her. She wanted it. She wanted people to support her. That's why I'm less hard on Lauren than I am the allies around her, because she's looking around saying, if I do this, y'all got me. And they're all like, I mean, who's gonna stay though? Like it's like I got you, kinda. If it's Will, maybe I don't have you. I do like Adrian. It's like there's no backbone to this alliance. And so for Adrian, he's the one person who wouldn't have flipped. If it was Adrian in the vote, he'd have been right there with Keanu, with Kelly, with Riley and Kat voting incorrectly, because Vinny is never going down with no ship like that. It's not happening. Zach is wise enough to jump ship too. And then they were even wise enough to leave your other allies behind, and Kat and Riley. Yeah, those people are out for blood. They're playing the game. You though, you are not. You are not playing the game.
Yeah, to wrap up this rule here, Adrian told Mike Bloom, maybe I should have just played with people that have some guts in the game.
Yeah.
But again, no matter how bad his allies were, we both said this already, but it deserves repeating. He chose them.
Yeah. He did. And Adrian, where were your guts? You keep talking about everybody else's guts. You threw the HOH challenge, the first one. And if you really studied these games, if you followed the Adrian rules, winning the first HOH would allow you to form a big alliance, and then you can go against the rest of the house. And yet you chickened out. And you have the nerve to sit around and talk about how everybody else was chicken. Sir, the first chicken is you.
Are you calling him a mother flipping chicken?
A mother flipping chicken. Well, I think he's a liar, David. It's like, you told us that was the rule, but then you went against the rule. Did you lie? Right. That's not the rule. You told us they were chickens. Are you not a chicken? Like, you need to start with you. I think that's where it needs to start.
Yeah. All right. Well, it is about time to wrap things up. So what are your final thoughts about Adrian?
It hurts me so much to say these things about Adrian, because I was rooting for him. He was the player that I wanted to see, aside from Rachel. I wanted to see the most, because I enjoyed his entrance, his preseason interviews. Right?
Yeah,
I liked all of that because it was over the top. It showed me that he understood the game, but also that he could be a showman. But when he got in the house, he just wasn't able to deliver on those promises at all. He was too rigid. He was not able to play with everybody because of the rigidity of his game, this idea that you had to be honest. And I think that he's ultimately a cautionary tale for people who come in Big Brother with like an idea of like what they are going to do, exactly how they're going to do it, and not able to pivot when needed to. And I think that because of all of those reasons, it really hurts super fans around the world, because people will say super fans are not good at this game when you go against the teachings of the super fan, right? We go through all these texts for a reason. We watch the tape, we review the tape, we got the rules. You got to follow the rules, man. So it was a fun time to have Adrian in the house for a while. We did, but it was about time to go. Yeah.
Adrian thought that he did every possible thing to prepare himself for Big Brother, from eating slop to making his own wall comp to reading psychology book to creating his own rules to follow in the game. But he missed a part so important that it's literally my first rule: scheming and plotting. You simply can't do that without lying. It's just not possible. It is more a part of the game than comps or have-nots or anything like that. You said that earlier. Adrian did seem to understand the importance of strategizing, as he went in wanting to create or at least be part of the majority alliance and go from there. But then he went against his own advice and threw the HOH comp and played a quieter game. But in doing so, he made things even worse than he realized by only working with, and sometimes even only talking to, a specific group of people. He put up barriers, in part caused by his honesty pledge, which had the effect of pushing people away. At the same time, the people he chose as allies really sucked at it.
Yeah.
One aspect of having good allies is that even if you can't directly convince someone to do something favorable for you, like if you don't have a great personal relationship with them, your allies often can step in and help. But Adrian's allies had the exact opposite effect. One of them nominated him against his own tight duo partner, Kelly, who was herself incredibly problematic. Now, some might say that a lot of what happened to Adrian was outside of his control. Indeed, he seems to be suggesting this. He seemed to be in a good spot to avoid being the replacement nominations until the actions of one of his own allies did him in. And then Ava used that same ploy to convince Zach and Vince they didn't want to vote on the same side as Keanu, so they flipped. But you can't just blame your allies. As we have both said, he chose them and never made any serious attempts to change his position in the House. He was so locked in and inflexible. Indeed, the only time he showed flexibility was when he shouldn't, when he went against the rules he had set for himself before the game. And that was a big part of Adrian's problem. You mentioned it, not following a superfan advice. Yes, he was a Big Brother superfan. He had all these great ideas, but he didn't put them into action, sometimes going directly against what he planned. How does a superfan mess up so badly? Well, as it turns out, we're seeing it from multiple players at the same time. Whether we're talking about Vince and the way he put himself in a good position, but has then blown it by making it obvious and also not knowing how to use it, or Lauren, who had that horrible HOH, or Adrian, who we've just discussed. We expect more of superfans, but being a fan and a player can be two very different things, and not everyone can handle the transition. I am a super fan of the Chicago Cubs. I could tell you where the players should play, what they should do. I can notice problems when they're on the field. Why is the pitcher pitching this way? Why is the hitter doing this? Why is the manager doing that? But that doesn't mean I can go out there and throw a 100-mile-per-hour fastball or hit a home run. Of course, there are obviously differences because, in theory, anyone should be able to play Big Brother. Just look at Kelly. You don't need to have practiced every day for most of your life or have the proper muscles to play Big Brother in the same way you would for a sport. However, the fact is some people are much better at watching than doing, and they cave under pressure. For Adrian, some of that pressure came from himself as he made decisions that, sitting on the couch at home, he might have realized were terrible ones. Whether it was being 100% honest or throwing the first HOH comp or showing himself to be a threat or choosing bad allies. But it seemed like within the game, even when superfan Adrian knew these moves would be bad, player Adrian ignored that advice. And that is why Adrian lost.
Yep. Tough break, man. Like I said, I knew I was going to be hard on Adrian, but it's just because, like you said, the potential is there.
Mm-hmm.
He was well liked. He has the athletic ability to do well in challenges, but to get in and just stand in your own way the entire time, it just really does you no favors. And so it's a learning opportunity. He talked a lot about how his family was why he was playing the game, and he wanted to bring that money home to his family. Well, if that's the case, should have been thinking about his family when he's walking around telling people he was refusing to lie.
Yeah. I mean, it goes back, we've said that about so many other players who have this honesty, loyalty, integrity policy, that no, you're playing for yourself and your family, not to be honest and loyal to the people that you just met.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
So, all right, well, we will have our spoiler-free predictions in a moment after a few other pieces of information. And in addition, if you want our full spoilery thoughts, we are all over social media where we discuss Big Brother and other topics. So, Chappell, where is the best place to find you on social media?
Blue Sky. Find me on Blue Sky, at Recap Kickback on Blue Sky, or at Chappell's Kickback on Blue Sky, at Recap Kickback on all social media platforms, talking about my podcasting, and on YouTube at Recap Kickback as well.
Okay. Well, I am also on Blue Sky, but I'm all over the place as well. You can find my various accounts on Linktree/David Bloomberg, or, like I just said, you can find me directly on Blue Sky as at David Bloomberg. And you and I are probably two of the biggest Blue Sky evangelists among the community, the RHAP community. So I encourage everyone at any of the other places to come over to Blue Sky for all your Big Brother discussions. There are so many major Big Brother accounts that have moved there. And ever since, ever since this season in particular, it has just been, people have come over and they're like, oh, it's so much better here. I don't have to, fight off these people while also just trying to have a discussion. So yeah, find us on Blue Sky. In addition, ever since Big Brother began, I've been posting at least 3 or 4 videos per day, sometimes as many as 5 or 6 on TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram, where I'm at David Bloomberg TV. It's almost all Big Brother right now. I did a Destination X congratulatory video, but otherwise it's almost all Big Brother. Thoughts from the episodes, clips, live feeds, other things like that. So almost time for the predictions. I do want to remind people that next week we will be subbing in one Big Brother 21 Fellowship of the Zing Alliance member for another. As I mentioned earlier, Cliff Hogg will be joining me while Ovi is off on his honeymoon. So I believe Cliff will be at the wedding. So maybe we'll get a wedding rundown too,
Yeah, good info coming from Cliff. Yes. It'll be fun.
So now it is time for predictions. And as I always mention, our predictions are spoiler free. So we wrote them up before we knew the outcome of the HOH comp. And Lord knows we had plenty of time before we knew the outcome of the HOH comp because those feeds were down forever. So here is my thought.
Okay.
What I would like to have happen is for someone like Keanu to win HOH because it would be so utterly ridiculous that at least it would be interesting. But I worry that instead we will have someone like Zach or Vince win and we'll end up seeing the same nominations as before. Even if someone takes a shot at someone else, that person may end up getting themselves off the block and we're just back to it again. So I hope I'm wrong.
Yeah.
But I think we're going to see it come down to some combination of Keanu and Will and Kelly again. And I'm just going to say Kelly's luck can't hold out. You can only play Russian roulette so many times. And maybe this is just hope talking. Maybe this is just me hoping. But I'm going to predict she finally leaves.
Well, I think what was you were predicting Keanu's downfall at first, right? It was
yes.
Like first Keanu was, and I was like, I'm fine with that. But now Kelly, you got to go.
Keanu's delusions are entertaining to me.
They are.
It's frustrating, and I know,
but also entertaining.
Some people find Kelly entertaining too. You and I, we are not among them.
I'm not those people. No. Not those people. I could definitely see the 3 of them ended up on the block. And somebody like, and that's the thing with their luck, Keanu will be safe and Kelly will be safe or something like that. Mm-hmm. And Will go. And honestly, that's fine with me. I do not like players who are not going to be active. I don't care if you are hiding, but you have to actively hide. You cannot just exist and hope that you don't get voted out the game. And even that doesn't really bother me. It's the complaining about existing and hoping you don't get voted out of the game. Right. Don't tell us that you're upset about getting put on the block. Tell Lauren, tell someone else. So I would not be shocked if it's those exact 3 people this week.
Yeah. All right. Well, as we wrap up here, I want to encourage people to check out the RHAP patron program at robhasawebsite.com/patron. Rob has several patron-only podcasts for Big Brother. I think, let's see, are you maybe involved in one of them there?
Yeah.
Yes, the slop. You can only get that as a patron.
And you want it. You want the slop. Oh, yes. I'm telling you, you want the slop. You will find out all about the Blue Sky demon that could be possibly working in the house right now. And a lot of other things. We had Quinn as a guest this week, and he was naming names. If you ever want to just know about Big Brother drama, you get Quinn on a hot mic and let him talk. And I definitely did. And so if you want to hear about all of that and more, you have to check out the slop by becoming a patron of realitytv.com.
Yes. And also make sure you're subscribed to all of the RHAP podcasts by going you can go to our YX Lost feed page, or more directly, you can just go to where it says at the bottom of the screen here, weknowbigbrother.com. And you select your podcast service, you subscribe, you get all the Big Brother, the non-patron Big Brother shows, whether it's the recaps, the live feeds, us, the round table, all sorts of things like that. So with that, I want to thank Scott St. Pierre, Jessica Sterling, and the whole RHAP and Reality TV RHAP Ups behind the scenes team for all the work they do, editing and posting and everything else. And especially thanks to you, Chappell, for a very fun episode. This was great. It wasn't, you had to tone it down a little bit because it's not the slop, but I still think we got the understanding of where you stood on things.
Yeah, sometimes I just feel like I just need to yell into the void, and I get on Blue Sky and I say things about these games that the people are playing. And this really feels like, very therapeutic to get to come on here and just be like, it's almost like I feel like, again, I'm talking to Adrian, like, Adrian, hear these things, because it's clearly not sinking in that you made mistakes throughout this game and you played poorly. And so, yeah, yes. Thank you for inviting me, because sometimes you just got to get it out of your system.
Yes. So I will, as I mentioned, be back here next week with Cliff. Just to let people know, due to scheduling, we'll be a couple of days later than usual. So sorry about that, but hey, stuff happens. And we will see you then, or you can find us on social media, see Chappell on the Slop, and lots of other places too at Recap Kickback. So until then, bye.
Peace.
This is RHAP. We know reality TV.